Today, the definition of beauty encompasses a wider range of qualities than ever before. It means discovering a personal style that's all your own, having energy, poise, vitality, and self-confidence. In Glamour Basics, you'll learn how to create a look that's polished and pulled together, a look that accents your best features and makes the most of your natural beauty. Step number 1 is a working knowledge of simple glamour techniques. Step 2 is practice. And once you begin, there's no limit to the effects or the excitement you can create. And now, to help you get started with your individual glamour makeover is Mr. John Maxwell.
Hello. Glamour Basics means to understand the practical aspect of what glamour application is all about. Why every woman wants to look her very best, and why Mary Kay has always stood behind education as a logical force for teaching people how down-to-earth and how non-time-consuming good glamour can be. Today, with my model Brenda, I'm going to share with you some ideas that take very little time. They're enjoyable to do, and it's amazing how you begin to discover that you don't really change your face as much as you change the way that people observe or have perspective about that face. That's what glamour's all about. Brenda, before we get started today, what I want you to understand is that all the makeup in the world can't change a large feature into a small feature or vice versa. But what it can do is it makes people see those very same features in the most positive way they possibly can. Brenda, what I'm going to do is start today by using a little bit of concealer to help you soften the facial area that may be a little darker or discolored. And then we're going to talk about your day radiance. Okay. And I'll have you do part of the makeup as I do it first. All right? All right, with your concealer, I'm going to pat that very gently wherever you might find that there's a little darkness that you need to attend to soften just a little bit. If you find that there's ever a little discolored area, any place on the face that you may feel requires a little attention. And you feel how gently I've patted that in. Try not to wipe it too much if you can. Now, I'd like to have you do the other side for me.
And does it matter if I go from the outside in or inside out?
Why don't you start gently from the outside and start to pat that.
Okay.
There you go. Very gently. Try not to wipe it any more than you can help.
Mm-hmm.
And then look for any other area that maybe requires a little coverage, you know, a blemish or some little place on the face. Very nice. Brenda, day radiance, which is the next step, is not designed just to cover everything up as much as it also enhances the texture and a nice soft tone to the complexion. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the day radiance and we'll just put a few gentle pats of color over the face and then very gently start to work this in and blend that very carefully into the concealer so that you have a nice neutral base that won't interfere with any color, gives you beautiful coverage, and a finish that complements the texture of your complexion and any other color that you want to use in your makeover today. Now, as I've done this, be sure to remember how nice and flowing those strokes were as I applied it. And now we'll have you do the other side of your face with your day radiance. All right, Brenda, now start by putting just a few random dots of the day radiance around the face. There you go. Sort of evenly spaced. And then gently start to blend those together.
We go up and out here?
Right. Try to always blend up and out. And pat gently around the eye. Great. So you have a nice neutral finish that's got a good polish to it. Nice and smooth. As you can see, it takes very little pressure. Now that Brenda has a beautiful finish on her face, and of course the wonderful protection that Day Radiance offers, it's time for her now to learn about brightening and adding contrast with her facial highlight. Brenda, what I'm going to do is take some highlighter and on a few points on the face, blend just a little brightness there so that you can see how that will affect the rest of the colors that go on afterwards. This also helps to make sure that people see greater lift on the face. We'll put a little highlighter back here toward the end of the brow and very gently pat that in to your day radiance so it appears just a little lighter. This gets the observer's attention up a little bit on the face. We'll move down to the cheekbone and put a little highlighter right there, and then gently pat that. And you feel that I'm patting that into a little bit of a circle so that it just fades into the other color and it doesn't look as if we've just put a stripe of color. And then we'll just put a little bit more, what's left on the fingertip, right here on the tip of your chin. Now, you do the other side for me, and then we'll start to work with some more color. Okay, let's take that highlighter now and start to brighten the face.
We start above the eye?
Right above the brow towards the end of the eye. There you go.
Okay.
A little bit. Now gently blend that in. You want to pat that more than you wipe it. Okay, pat it gently so that it just starts to fade around the edges into your day radiance. We don't want that to look like a stripe.
How's that?
Okay, just a little bit more. Give it just a little more blend. There you go. That's great.
Okay.
Okay, let's move down to the cheekbone now.
We start about...
About the outside corner of the eye. You can
Okay.
put a little bit right there. Okay, now take your fingertip and again, pat that so it fades around the edges.
And this is the where you did the circular
Right,
motion?
so that it doesn't look like you've got a strip or something that looks artificial. You just want that to make the bone look a little rounder and a little higher. Good. You see what that does? You see why it's important to blend it like that?
Right.
Okay, and then you remember where we put the last dot of the
Okay, put
highlighter?
a little bit down. here.
Right. Good. That's just so that we keep the face looking nice and open, so we don't have anything too dark, too low. Okay. Great, Brenda. Mary Kay has day radiance shades for every skin tone, from very light ivory tones to very dark bronze tones. When concealing for bronze skin tone, you may prefer to use an ivory or a beige day radiance shade rather than using yellow concealer. As a special tip for highlighting bronze tone skin, add a small dot on the cheekbone directly under the iris of the eye to open and to brighten the center of the face. Next, we want to talk a little bit about the size of your face. Now, in Brenda's case, because her face is average in size, not too large and not too small, the application is very simple. We're going to start to give her a natural contour with a little cream blusher. All we have to do is move a little of the blusher toward the cheekbone, very gently patting that down, and then start to blend that around the bone so that it very delicately fades right into the day radiance shade. There we go, just like this, just a kiss of color. Now it's your turn. Brenda, take that cream blush now and just pat that at the top of the cheekbone. There you go.
Now we blend up and around.
Just pat that around the bone gently. There you go, a nice soft pat. You see how it starts to fade around all the edges so you never have a racing stripe. Okay, very gently. See, it doesn't disturb your highlights or your day radiance.
And we keep that up in this area?
Right, so that it just becomes softer around the bone
Mhm.
because we want a natural contour. Oh, that's wonderful. You see what's happening now? You're using color after color, but they're all working together beautifully. Now we'll set this with our loose powder. Nice soft strokes. And don't forget, Brenda, to always carry your press powder with you in your purse for touch-ups during the day. There we go. All right, Brenda, nice long strokes with your loose powder. Good. There you
We
go.
move up and out
Mm-hmm.
on this also.
Just nice and gently so you've got a nice finish.
And this goes over the entire face.
Yes, over everything. Okay, great. Brenda, to add a little more depth to what you've done so far with your cream blush, take just a touch of the powder blush and put a little splash of color toward the outside of the face. Gently let that ride the crest of the cheekbone, fading forward so it becomes softer the closer we get to the nose. Brenda, take your powder blush now and start to do a blusher contour.
We want to start
From the outside,
okay.
gently put a little color toward the outside and let it fade. That's it.
I'm going over the same area that you did before.
Right. Follow the curve of the cheekbone so it becomes a little softer toward the nose. That way you never have to worry about a racing stripe or what looks like those sharp edges of color. Beautiful. Remember that with small faces, the blusher application should be put high on top of the cheekbone and delicately let it fade towards the eye, leaving the center of the face exposed. Remember that with glasses, they take up a lot of space on the face and camouflage the eye. Remember to intensify the cheek color just slightly. Keep the blusher close to the cheekbone and let it fade close to the eye. When blushing a full face, remember that you want to cut down on as much curve as possible. Gently blush from the cheekbone down toward the ear, and then as the color begins to fade forward toward the nose, blend straighter so you cut down on the curve. The face no longer looks as full. On faces with a mature quality, it's important to remember that we pay more attention to a soft, dewy texture, and we modify technique. Blusher colors should be kept softer in appearance. Make sure that the application is high on the cheekbone, and as it gently fades forward, it should travel no closer to the nose than the outside corner of the eye, therefore leaving the face open, brightened, and youthful. When wearing glasses on a face with a mature quality, it's important to remember also that the blusher color not be intensified. Keep it soft, keep it higher to the bone, and let it fade forward gently. In creating beautiful eyes, one of the first things that we want to prepare for is the shape of the brow. We know that it frames the face and it adds expression to the eye. Now, we know that with an average eye, an eye that we would consider well-balanced, as long as the brow moves gently from thick to thin, starting toward the inner eye and tapering gently toward the outer eye, chances are you're always going to have good luck. But for those people who have differently shaped eyes, perhaps there's a little more tissue around the eye and we would consider that hooded, or a deeper set eye, there are some tips that I can give you to make your eye makeup more effective. Take, for instance, someone that has a hooded eye. This is a person who lacks a little depth around the eye. Try to remember that if the tail of the brow or the end of the brow is elevated and moves out a little straighter, or it doesn't move down too rounded, you'll always end up with the eye looking more open. If the eye is deep set, meaning that the eye appears a little darker, all we have to do here is make sure that the lift on the brow, or the arch itself, has been exaggerated slightly to give us a brighter quality to the eye. Eye glamour is fascinating to everyone. And before you start to worry about where this color goes or that color goes, or what type of an eye you may have, think for just a moment about the positive angles of everybody's eye. Now, you see, in Brenda's case, where we're dealing here with what we would consider a well-balanced or average eye, we can see the eyelid, the crease to the eye is visible, and the tissue around the eye is not overly prominent. This gives us a brighter quality to the eye, an open appearance to the eye, and it makes it very easy for her now to start to use color to create the same illusions there that she has everywhere else on the face. Brenda, what I'm going to do is work with our shadow colors, both dry and wet today, to show you a difference in intensity from one color to another, so that you can see how easily you can start to lift and to curve those eyes of yours the same way you did with the cheeks.
Okay.
All right? Okay. We'll take the light value controller, just look down for me, and we'll lay a little bit of this right across the lid first, letting it fade up toward the crease, and then blend that gently, back and forth, and then work from the crease of the eye with the value controller up toward the brow so that we have a nice wash of color across the eye first. It also provides a beautiful base to work from. And then we'll start to work with color and create the accent around the eye or the contour on the eye. Let's take the shadow color first and use this to intensify depth at the lash line all the way across the lid from end to end, and blend that gently into the wash, and then using the same color start to move back in, about 1/4 of an inch, to create what appears to be a wedge at the outer corner of the eye, and gently start to soften that with the curve of the eye, and then let it start to fade up and out. You know, a great trick for making sure that your shadow has fabulous lasting power throughout the day is just to make sure that your Glamour blending brush is just a little bit damp and go over what you've done already to secure that finish. Brenda, let's add a little contour to the under eye with an eye defining pencil, and very gently from the outside, right into your natural lash line, let's smudge an eye defining pencil about, 3/4 of the way across the under eye. Remember always to keep your pencils nice and sharp so that you don't have to use a long stroke, and you always end up with a nice natural smudge of color. It not only makes the shape of the eye look larger, but it makes the lashes appear to be a little thicker at the same time. Pull that up toward the outside corner of the eye, and you've started to complete the eye contour. By adding a touch of the dark value controller right at the end of the eye over your shadow, we can start to intensify the curve and blend that right in. And then, to benefit the shape of the eye, take just a little of the dark value controller wet and use a nice short stroke, and use this as a liner across the eye from end to end. And then we'll mascara. And let's just mascara the upper and the lower lashes. Just moving up. You want to remember, Brenda, also never pump your mascara wand. There we go. And look up for me. And a little mascara on the lower lashes, so that your lashes now frame the entire eye design beautifully. Okay, Brenda, now let's lay a wash of color on the eye with the light value controller. Start first at the lash line.
I'll do a couple of strokes here.
Keep that stroke very soft, very gentle, and then pull it up through the crease, and then blend that with your Glamour blending brush.
Or do I blend to the outside here?
Blend with a circle, blend with the curve of the eye. You can go back and forth. There you go. And now, take your light value controller again and work from the crease up toward the brow. All right. And then blend once again, following the natural curve of the eye, so that you have a nice base to work from. And now, Brenda, we'll take the accent color, and with your sponge tip applicator, start to do the contour on the eye.
From the inside out.
Right, all the way across.
And were these small strokes or?
Right. Very small and very short strokes. That way you have good control of the product. And take your blending brush once again now and soften that into the lash line. Good. Now, take the shadow and from the end of the eye, put in a couple of strokes from the outside in, about 1/4 of an inch long. There you go. You can even pull it up a little higher if you want to. Okay. Now, with your blending brush, once again, let's blend that so that you see the colors fading gently from one depth to another.
Do I blend sideways or?
Just blend across the crease of the eye, like you did a minute ago. That's great. All right, now, what we want to do is make sure that you get this well set, and as I did previously, if you just add a touch of moisture to your Glamour blending brush, you can use that to help set all that you've done so far so that your shadow will stay even longer. Okay, beautiful. Let's define the shape of your eye now with your eye defining pencil and start on the under eye from the outside. Use a very short stroke, very close to the lash line, and let's underline about 3/4 of the way across. Always keep your pencil nice and sharp so you don't have to use a lot of pressure. And make the lower lashes look thicker, and at the same time, it helps you to shape the eye. All right, now, to ensure depth, what you can do is take the dark value controller, and we'll use this dry first with your sponge tip applicator, and put maybe 1 or 2 strokes only on the upper lid toward the end of the eye, just like you did with your shadow. Let's add a little bit of depth there.
Okay, and this goes over the same.
Yes, because it won't change the color, it'll just give it a little more depth. Beautiful. All right, now soften that with your blending brush. You can even pull that out a little bit from the eye if you want to give even greater lift. And then to make sure that you have the entire eye beautifully shaped, take that dark value controller once again with your eyeshadow brush, only this time we're going to use a little bit of water with it and use it as a very thin liner from end to end, right next to your lashes, all the way across. All right, good. Let's mascara this so that you've got your lashes corresponding to the rest of the design. And with just a little mascara on the upper and the lower lashes, let's thicken those just a little. Remember not to pump that wand ever. Most people find that 1 coat is ample, but some people like to wear a little more. Good, and then we'll put some on the lower lashes. Okay, that's beautiful, my goodness. You know, for those after-work occasions where you might want to freshen your eye makeup just a little, what we can do here is take a little more of the accent color that we use dry, and just look down for me, Brenda, and let's add just a little bit more of that at the lash line and pull it up over the crease just slightly, and then we'll soften that with a little blend from the Glamour blending brush, and then finish that with just a touch of the dark value controller, also extended just a little bit higher to put a little more flare into the eye design. Here's your accent shadow, Brenda. So go ahead and add a little more depth across the lash line. And move that up over the crease just a little. All right, now let's soften that with just a touch from your blending brush. And then finish that by adding a little extra depth with your dark value controller just at the end of the eye.
Does this go into the crease a little bit more?
Pull it all the way from the lash up to the crease, that's it. Great, so that you've added even a little more curve, and then we'll just blend that. You can even pull that away from the eye a little bit if you want to. Super. When the eye is hooded, remember to put a substantial wedge of the accent color at the outer third of the upper lid. Gently blend up and out. Take the dark value controller and smudge it closer to the lash line to give the illusion of even greater depth. And it's not a bad idea to use a little extra mascara to make those lashes look even thicker. Remember that with a deep set eye, the eye usually looks darker. So as a consequence, after the wash is put on the eye, remember that we want to keep as much of the lid exposed or as open as possible. Direct the accent color back over the crease so you gently blend up toward the brow. Keep the dark value controller toward the outer corner of the eye so the eye does not look darker toward the inner eye. As we saw demonstrated here with Brenda, beautiful eyes can be simple, not time-consuming, and an awful lot of fun. Brenda, some of the things that we covered today, I hope, explain to you away some confusion you might have had in the past about eye makeup.
Yes, it did, and I found it much simpler than I thought it was going to be.
It's kind of fun, too, to be able to use the colors both wet and dry together to create those different effects, isn't it?
I was always afraid to try and use shadows wet, but it's much easier.
Well, you see, most of the tips are basically common sense, and they make sense. Like not pumping a mascara so that you don't dry it out by filling it full of air.
Right.
Beautiful eyes don't have to be hard to do at all. You can dress them up, or you can keep them as simple as you want to, depending on how much depth you want for that particular moment or that affair. As Brenda gets ready to put the finishing touches on her beautiful makeover, we'll take the lip liner first. Brenda, why don't you start in the center of the lower lip and put a little straight line right in the middle of the mouth. There you go, so you have a nice guide. And then pencil up to the corners. That helps to prevent that lower lip from ever getting a square look to it. And then on your upper lip, go to the middle and put a little bow. That's right, just draw a little V right in the center of the upper lip. And then let that be your guide and pencil down to the corners on the upper lip. Very little pressure. Keep your lip liner nice and sharp at all times so that you have good control. Of course, it'll help to keep the lip color longer.
Now, do I pencil in the corners here? Or do
Yes,
we
if
do-
you wanted to add a little more depth to the lip color, you could add a little more of the pencil in the corners. That also, by the way, helps to keep some lip colors, especially brighter colors, from appearing to bleed a little bit.
Oh,
Because then you don't have to use quite as much of the lip color back towards the corner. But if you, in your case, where we just want to maybe make the lip look a little rounder, you can do that to intensify your lip color a little more. Now, why don't you take your lip color and be sure that as you fill in with your lip color, that you're always careful to smooth the lip liner so that we don't see a line around the mouth, just a little more depth. Okay, and always smoothing that down to the lip line. And because you used a little extra pencil in the corners, you'll have a little more depth there. Great, and the same thing on the upper lip. Filling that in and smoothing the lip liner at the same time. Beautiful. All the way down to the corner. Okay, and you know, as you get ready to finish that, or just to polish that off a little bit, you can take a little bit of your lip gloss and work that from the middle of the mouth back and forth on both the upper and the lower lip. There you go. A little extra sheen and luster, so it keeps everything looking beautifully balanced. When lining a thinner lip, remember to just barely extend the lip line around the outside of the mouth. And then fill in with your lip color as usual. When lining a fuller lip, remember to keep the lip liner within the natural rim of the mouth. Also, keeping the lip liner a little thicker adds greater definition around a fuller lip. And then fill in with your lip color as usual. Well, there you have it. A beautiful new reflection of you through understanding Glamour Basics. And understanding that beautiful makeup is as easy as the amount of time you want to dedicate to it. Practice is the only difference between something that's good and something that's wonderful. Remember that color awareness gives you a good, solid foundation for understanding color. You could tell today by the cheek and the lip colors that we selected to correspond beautifully to Brenda's dress, that she's got perfect color harmony, and that by understanding the movement of color around the face, she's created the lift, the curvature, and that bright, dewy quality that every professional woman aspires to.